Hey, welcome back to another Black City Coffee vlog. In this video, I stalled a roast this morning. So I'm messing around with the new probe and everything and just seeing where its limits are, I guess, and sort of roasting very intuitively and just getting reacquainted with my machine, because with this new probe, it's basically all new, systems of measurement. What was 387 now is like, I don't know, like 397 or something like that. I don't know. There's some weird correlations and weird adjustments that I need to observe more frequently and just be on the roaster. And again, like I said, spend the time, do the work, and see what the adjustments are. So I'm adjusting to the probe still. And so I was trying to push this roast a little bit and see, like, okay, like with this new probe, I want to see how much energy I actually need still, And so I was just sort of playing around. So what I ended up doing was stalling the roast. Now, what do I mean by stalling the roast? This is a term that I heard in the very beginning of roasting. It was something to be weary of, and it was like you're not hitting certain markers at a certain time at a certain temperature. So there's somewhere in the roast, it could be in the first phase, second phase, last phase, you could be stalling in comparison to what you normally do. Maybe I'm gonna hit, turning point at this number or at this time, at this temperature. Most frequently people, when they talk about stalling, I think, like what I did in my particular instance, was I didn't hit first crack at the time and temperature, or at the time that I didn't normally hit it. So I stalled it, meaning like I elongated the middle a bit longer than I had intended. And I was like, that's interesting, what happened here? Based on my notes, I think it was not about, preheating or charge. I think it was just a mismanagement, maybe lowering the heat down too much at the end of first phase or green to yellow transition. Okay, so that's typically what can happen. I think, like I've done this in the past, stalling the roast and making the middle a bit too long. Now, on the graph, we look at the numbers and little sirens and red flags start to kind of like wave in your face, right, and go off in your head. Before we even judge this coffee and say, bad coffee, bad middle face, stalled. We need to cup the roast, we need to verify. And it's good, I think, good practice for me as a roaster to, again, taste what does stalled taste like. Okay, so we have it here. This coffee will not go to waste. Obviously, this coffee, when you stall a roast, like, you could just turn it into a medium or a dark roast. It'll be fine, all right? If anything, I spent some time in the Pacific Northwest, and so many roasters, even when they say light, medium, medium, light roast, they're all generally roasting the same thing, because most of the time people are putting cream and sugar in their coffee. It's not that serious. That's kind of one of the bigger lessons that I learned over my little trip up there, was like, everybody likes it a bit dark, even their medium roast and light roasts. In my scale, in my standard, I guess, or my profile, I wouldn't call them light. I wouldn't call them medium. I'd say, hey, this is still, maybe medium, but hey, this is still on the darker end. Like I could still really just taste a lot of roast in the cup. And by that, I mean like those roasty, chocolatey, traditional coffee flavors. All right, so we got some water here. Let's cup it. This was roasted this morning, so, we're going to have maybe some harshness to the cup. It won't be so sweet right now, maybe as balance, but we're trying to look for what are going to be the most offensive things in this stalled roast and try to identify, hey, this means stalled. So that maybe when I taste it next time, when I'm roasting, maybe production roasting, I go, hey, this tastes a little stalled, or whatever that means. Like, we're going to find out in the cup right now, because very rarely do I often isolate flavors this closely. But I think it's a good practice, Like, what does stalled taste like? What does 387 degrees Fahrenheit taste like compared to 397, like I was saying? I didn't even have to do that. Like, it's hard to multitask and talk to you at the same time. And then burn. Guess I'm still in vacation mode, still waking up. All right. Okay. All right, we wait. I'm still getting questions about the probe. Hey, get it if you want to get it. You know, it's really not expensive and it's not hard to install. Just know that you're gonna have to reprofile everything, and it may kind of mess with you for a little bit as you're roasting, because you're like, oh, I used to hit this at this time at this temperature, and now it's telling me that it's this temperature, and so yeah, you just have to reprofile it, and it's just like, just look at it as like, hey, this is my new machine or my new probe, whatever, my new machine, and it roasts like this. And then still cup the coffee, still do all the things, you know, still all your checks, make some, you know, you can make some comparison, take good notes, and go, hey, okay, so it tastes like this, but the measurement says this before. It tastes like this, okay, that's similar, or I think I nailed it, but now the measurement says this. Okay, this is my new measurement. That's all. You just got a new ruler. That's it. In my opinion. Maybe, you know, at this very, 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 very early stage of using this new probe, that's just my opinion. I haven't been able to put in the work and the time to really give you anything more than that, you know. So, to each their own, you know, like, it's all good. I think what people were concerned about is, you know, like, the biggest concern I think that maybe nobody's really saying out loud is like, is my coffee bad, you know, if I don't have these numbers? And I just don't believe that's true all the time, you know. Maybe not all the time. Maybe it is true. Maybe your coffee is bad. I don't know. I didn't taste it. But that's why you gotta taste it. Taste roasters that you like and admire, because not all coffee roasters roast the same, you know. Like my mediums and my light roast will be vastly different from what you can get in an everyday store in the Pacific Northwest. That's for sure, because I tried a lot of coffee. I didn't go into like very, very fancy cafes because I just wasn't in those areas. I like wasn't in the city. I was more in like rural areas and like out in nature and stuff. So out in nature, I guess the culture coffee drinkers there just like things a little darker, you know, all good. It also made really clear, you know, the idea of a coffee business, a cafe, a roastery, you know, it's always here lingering, going, hey, what about me? And I think it's just because sometimes as a business owner, we get distracted or burnt out and we want to look to another thing to be like the answer, but it seldom is. So yeah, it's fun to play with the idea, but I don't know. I think it's fun to play with the idea. And right now that's what it is. It's fun. It's playing. And that's okay too, you know. There, stop, clear, start. Nice. Like candied apricots, like crushed, and then milk chocolate and dark chocolate at the same time. And grape nuts. Can't forget grape nut. Okay. I mean, it's still a medium by color's sake. It's on the lighter side of the medium spectrum, which is my style. Evidently, not a lot of people roast like this in the Pacific Northwest, and that's fine. But it was hard to find coffee that kind of mimicked mine in the way that I roast. So I definitely know that out of one of the bigger coffee cultures, I think in the world, you know, Starbucks started there and all this stuff. They definitely like it darker, which makes sense because Starbucks started there, right? If you taste Starbucks coffee, very, very dark, right? Okay, so we let this cool a little bit more. If we look at the coffee, as I'm making my adjustment with the new probe, and the numbers could throw me off or could throw you off, look at the bean. Look at the bean development. You know, is it swelled enough for you to call it light or not swelled, for you to call it light or medium or dark, you know. So just look at it. Have confidence in your roasting skills. If you don't have confidence, just start checking the boxes, you know, because confidence comes with time. It's just like, okay, like, is it swelled? Does it look? How does it look? How does it compare to the coffee that I've been roasting? That's your comparison. Just bring a handful of the coffee from the old roast, bring it and compare it to the new roast, you know, and just sort of match the physical characteristics and the color as much as possible. And that's the art of it, you know. There's the science part with the numbers and the thermodynamics and all that stuff, but there's the art part, the intuition, the experience, which is just like, look at it, you can taste it straight up. I'll swallow these too, like I'm at the roaster. Obviously, if you couldn't crunch it, I'd be like, this is pretty underdeveloped, or it's pretty light. It's firmer. The grounds are tighter, not as crumbly, not as light. And you'll notice that too if you hand grind your beans. When you're having a light roast, it's a little tougher, right? They're more denser. They're just not as roasted. You have a medium or a dark roast, it's so smooth. So oftentimes when I don't have the whole process done, cupping and all that stuff, we just crunch some beans right there at the roaster. And swallowing these grounds, it won't do you any harm, like one bean. I hope. Okay. So yeah, this is Tiger Claw. And this stalled roast, we're going to see, I'll throw the profile in the description. I'll throw it up on the screen. You can see what stalled means in my particular case. I guess you can use that word in a lot of ways, since there's no real consensus. We're going to see if this, characteristically in the coffee, is it flat? Does it not have any zing to it? Like I call it zing, you know, like the acidity. Did stalling the roast make it less desirable to drink? You know? Let's see. Yes, it did. Wow. Okay. So let's take into consideration that this has not been rested for 24 hours. Okay. So yes, it's a little harsh and definitely no sweetness in the cup. Rather, what I taste is a sort of brown, paper baggy water. So if I can identify that in the roast, it is really quite bad. Let's let it cool a little bit more. We're at 5 minutes 30. And keep tasting it. You know, we want to not make a first judgment on one sip. I'm not that skilled. Okay, some sweetness is coming through, so it needs to cool. We need to consider again that it's not been rested. It's a medium. It's supposed to be a medium roast, so it's supposed to have some roast quality in the cup. And if we look at, we're looking at a 5 minutes middle phase. Like that's a big no-no, right, in the world of coffee. Unless you were going to do something super dark, okay. But this is more along the lines of like a light medium roast, in that range is where I find myself on these particular blends for Tiger Claw. What was our finishing temp? 396. Total roast time, 349, a little long, right? So this is why we use this terminology of stalled, because like, hey, we're going long, but we still haven't reached this certain temperature that I'm looking for. I'm looking for about 400 degrees on this guy. So we're about 4 degrees shy. Okay, it's tasting better at 6 minutes, almost 7. The first sip at 4 minutes was so bad. For me to feel comfortable selling this, I would need to have been a lot more roastier in the cup here. It's tasting like a light roasted coffee that really just flattened out. You know, there's no separation of flavor. And with this particular blend, the most that I'm wanting you to taste as the roaster is the apricot, the milk chocolate, the dark chocolate, all those, okay? Now, am I getting all those? Kind of, but like a lighter version of them all. So it's lacking sweetness. It has this sort of top notey thing that goes away very quickly. The sweetness that we're supposed to get from a properly developed middle phase and final phase, so that like roastiness, so those are your chocolatey flavors, your peanut brittles and things like that, the caramels, those sort of things sort of coming at the tail end of the middle and the last phase of the roast. They're kind of there, but sort of like just the weaker generic version of them. There's a slight sweetness. So I couldn't confidently sell this and bag it like I did. It was like, okay, I was going to do like a bigger batch of Tiger Claw, but for some reason we stalled it. And if I look back at my notes, it was an improper manipulation of the heat at, let me see, what time can I pinpoint it? Improper manipulation of heat. We did a 30-second soak, so I feel like we didn't get enough energy. We charged at 364, I remember. And so we had not enough heat in the beginning of this roast, and we sort of lost momentum here. And then we mismanaged the heat further. So we already made one mistake. We made another mistake. After we hit dry end, which was kind of late at 5 minutes 16. Interesting. That's weird. And just not having enough energy. Losing a lot of energy. So by the time we would normally get at to 8:16 for like a normal first crack on this particular profile, we didn't hit it. And we're going on and on and on. We don't hit first crack until 10:30. Right? So long. So I'm going, ding, stalled it, lost momentum somewhere, mismanaged the heat in the beginning or the last part of the first phase and in the beginning part of the second phase. Okay? So I think it's important to make these videos because like a lot of times I'll do all this in my head and I'll make my little adjustments. I'll do this secretly and be like, oh no, I messed up. I'm not going to bag it. I'm not going to sell it, you know. I'm going to drink it and I'm going to learn from it. But I don't talk about it too much. But I was always asking other roasters, hey, what does stalled taste like? Like, what does overdeveloped taste like? What does underdeveloped taste like? And so learning what the defects are so we can steer away from them, okay? You know what? This is a coffee that you would find in, you definitely wouldn't find it in any gas station, that's for sure. You know, gas station coffee still tastes a little burnt, but still grateful for it. This coffee, you could still sell it, and I would call it a light roast. I would call it a light roast Tiger Claw, but that's not what I, advertise and put out in market. It's supposed to be a medium roast. So obviously this was a mulligan. I will be drinking it. It's a light roasted wannabe medium, which is a shame because for these particular green, they should be roasted medium to get that, to just fall forward into that chocolate, dark chocolate, milk chocolate, apricot flavors and be a little roasty and stand up against milk and stuff like that. Right now it's pretty weak, so if you were to add your milk and sugar, it would just taste very, I don't know, like a milk tea or something like that. You know, it would kind of taste like that. So if you're into that, roast it like this. But for me, yeah, it was a mistake. I want to taste that mistake. I want to document. I want to understand why. And then next time when I go to the roaster, again, because I'm adjusting myself to this new probe, good thing I roasted a good one. I believe it was just the mismanagement of the fuel, like the fuel coming down too much and hitting a dry end late for some reason. Why did I hit dry end late? Okay, that's the real question. Why did I hit dry end late? Because that, dominoed everything else. Okay. That's what I have for you today, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye.